Perhaps no other NHL team had more of an impact on Team USA's gold medal win than the Minnesota Wild. What impact will that have on the Wild going forward? We'll talk about that and more next on today's Locked On NHL podcast.
You're Locked On NHL, your daily podcast on the National Hockey League. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Gil Martin here. Welcome, everybody, to the Monday edition of the Locked On NHL podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I want to thank everyone who makes Locked On NHL your first listen every day. Don't forget to subscribe on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts so you never miss an episode. And thank you for helping to make Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Use your profit boost on an NBA future and get entered for your chance to win a trip to the NBA Finals. Play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. I am happy to welcome back to the show a familiar face and voice for Locked On NHL listeners, Seth Toupal of Locked On Wild. And Seth, Bill Guerin and so many players very involved in Team USA, putting the team together, helping them to win the gold medal. How does this impact the Wild as we head down the stretch?
I think it just shows that this team is full of the type of talent that is required to get it done, to make a big push into the deep into the playoffs and to potentially get to the Stanley Cup final and win the Stanley Cup trophy. The old saying is when the lights are brightest, you need your biggest players to step up. And not only were Minnesota Wild players, and there was plenty of questioning about the inclusion on the roster of Matt Boldy and of Brock Faber in particular. I don't hear that level of questioning very much now, because not only did those guys make the roster, but they were pivotal in the success of Team USA. Matt Boldy scoring the first goal of the gold medal game. He had another goal throughout the Olympic run, but one of the most active and noticeable players on the ice every time he was out there and routinely playing top line minutes in a lineup of the best United States players. Think about that. A guy who was playing top line minutes for that squad. Brock Faber reuniting with Jacob Slavin to produce that just shutdown line defensively that they needed to slow down the likes of Nathan McKinnon, Connor McDavid, and Macklin Celebrini. And then Quinn Hughes, easily one of the best players on the roster, if not the best player, most notable, most active, and he had assists every game for Team USA, as well as a goal. These guys were crucial to getting the gold medal win. And for all the questioning of, well, there should have been more scoring on Team USA's roster, Bill Guerin put this roster together for one specific reason, and it was to beat Canada. And for all of the scoring and flash and sizzle that Canada brought to the gold medal game, he put his roster together to win battles along the boards, and they certainly did that. So it was so much fun to see these guys succeed on the highest stage, but to play such crucial roles. And I hope that gives them confidence going forward. Like this is the Matt Boldy that we have seen all season, and now the world got to see him excel at this level. We have seen Brock Faber play at this level throughout the last couple of seasons, and this is the Quinn Hughes that we have come to know over the last few weeks of the season. So my hope is that it gives these guys just an extra boost to keep this going throughout the rest of the season into the playoffs. But we have seen them do this for most of the season already.
Are you concerned at all about an emotional letdown and or fatigue for some of these guys coming back from the Olympics?
That's a great question. And I think on a case-by-case basis, it may vary depending on what player you are looking at. I've been asked a lot about especially Quinn Hughes and Brock Faber, the minutes that they have played so far this season. And Quinn Hughes led all players in time on ice throughout the entirety of the Olympics. And wondering if that is something that we should be monitoring. And maybe, but I also know that he has been playing, Quinn Hughes in particular, has been playing those minutes all season. Brock Faber's been playing those minutes all season. I haven't seen anything to suggest that they are slowing down as of yet. And I think the Wild, knowing that a playoff spot is pretty secure at this point, I think their playoff odds are 99.92% or something like that. I would think that the Wild coaching staff would do what they needed to do, sitting a guy out or just watching minute levels if they really needed to down the stretch to make sure those guys are ready for the postseason. So it is something that I think bears watching, but I think those guys would be the first to say something if they felt like they were playing too many minutes.
What are the keys to the stretch drive for the Wild? And is it important for them to take second place and get home ice advantage in that first round?
It is interesting. I think if you would have looked at last year, I maybe would have said it doesn't matter as much because of how good the Wild were on the road. This year, I think they have really started to kind of find that edge at home again. So I do think getting the second position, if they're going to be second or third, I think having the second seed gives you just that little advantage of having the extra home game. One of the big keys for the Wild down the stretch is health, like with every team. And it was great to see that the Wild got through the Olympics without any injury concerns whatsoever. So just continuing to kind of take the lead that Quinn Hughes has provided. This is a team that since Quinn Hughes came on board, they have the most goals in the NHL in that span. And that's not just that's a 26 game sample size. And they have the most goals in the NHL. Getting Jonas Brodin back, I think, will help kind of put order back in the D pairings. But beyond that, just making sure that Philip Gustafsson and Jesper Wallstedt stay consistent. I think you add all those three together, and this has been one of the best teams in the NHL since the season started, since November 1st, but also since Quinn Hughes came on board. And it's more so just kind of keeping that going all the way through to the playoffs, and maybe finding a way. I don't know if it's possible, but maybe finding a way to take one step up the ladder too.
What do you expect this team to look to do at the trade deadline, and what are they looking to get, and what are they looking to give up?
It's funny that two of the guys that they have been most heavily linked to also played big roles on the Olympic team. Vincent Trocheck turning that penalty kill, which, by the way, Minnesota Wild head coach John Hines had a big hand in that for the United States, and they went perfect on the entire Olympic run. They were the only team to do so. Vincent Trocheck is a player that they have been heavily linked to. He's a guy that brings a very adept hand in the faceoff circle. But I think he also brings a level of what the Team USA squad needed. And I'll use the quote that Coach Mike Sullivan used. There are plenty of milk drinkers, but this Team USA squad had a bunch of whiskey drinkers. And I think adding a whiskey drinker like Vincent Trocheck to the Minnesota Wild roster, I think would help them in the playoffs and beyond. So he is one of the players they've been linked to. Jack Hughes, ironically, is the other, and he scored the game-winning goal. That's a little bit more of a pipe dream, I think, because that's going to require a massive haul in return to get him. So I think Trocheck is very attainable, and it's just a matter of, the right mix of picks and prospects to make the deal happen. You slot him in as a top six center, and that just improves the depth of your roster. Whether he be the 1C or Joel Eriksson Ek be the 1C, your top two centers are pretty dang good. So I think that's the big goal. It would not surprise me if Bill Guerin moves quickly to make that happen. Now that the Olympics are done, get a guy in tow so he has time to acclimate to the roster. But also, let's not overlook the fact that Bill Guerin likes to operate in the weeds. There's been so much public linking of Trocheck and Jack Hughes to the Minnesota Wild, and the two biggest moves that that Billy has made in his tenure as GM have been moves that nobody was talking about. Quinn Hughes, of course, being number one. So he likes to operate in the weeds. It would not surprise me in the slightest if the trade that he pulls off before the deadline is one that we have not talked about at all, because that's just the kind of guy he is. So that's going to be one of my favorite things to watch, is what he does to further this roster. It feels like if they get one more top six piece, that they are going to move into that that juggernaut, that wagon status that they pretty much already are. And then it's just a matter of who is still standing at the end of the season. And that's just going to be unbelievably fun to watch unfold.
All right, Seth, I know you'll have it covered every step of the way. Why don't you tell our viewers and our listeners where they could find the podcast and where they could find you on social media?
You can follow the show at Locked On Wild, and make sure to follow the socials as well. We've got, I think, something like 55 days until the regular season is done. And so we're gonna have things covered every step of the way. And of course, you can follow me on social media as well at Seth Toups. Probably still playing Freebird and still celebrating the United States win. But other than that, we mix in plenty of hockey too.
All right, Seth, thank you so much.
Gil, my pleasure.
Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. There's nothing like being in an NBA arena, the crowd, the energy, the moment. Getting tickets, though, that part hasn't always been so simple. That's why Game Time has become the go-to app for scoring tickets fast without the hassle. It puts the advantage back where it belongs, with the fans. I love the all-in pricing up front, so there are no surprise fees at checkout. And you can get a panoramic view from your seat before you purchase the tickets, so you know exactly what to expect when you arrive. And the zone deal stood out. You choose the section, Game Time picks the seats, and you save. Take the guesswork out of buying NBA tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. That's code LOCKEDON for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today, and remember, it's gametime.co, not gametime.com.